What's good? What's good? This is somewhat of a clickbait title, but also not. It's tough because I want to be compassionate, but I also want to be honest. And so let me just tell you this story real quick. Retail workers are dumb. They're just dumb. And I think it speaks to the greater dumbing down, the systematic dumbing down of our population in conjunction with their demoralization. Because I think if they were more motivated and encouraged and inspired, they'd want to be better. I think a lot of it is in fact just nihilism, just accepting the crap of their current situation, which is working in retail, which sucks. It absolutely sucks because the general population just generally sucks. People who are overworked and underloved, who are not living in alignment with the universal Christ consciousness. But anyways, I'm getting way off subject, but that's the reality. Retail sucks. You're underpaid. And so I get why people aren't motivated. But really, 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 as hard as it is, you should bring your best to everything you do. Don't go 110% kill yourself. The story revolves around Home Depot, so I can see how you could hurt yourself. But still give a quality effort. I've worked years in retail as literally a cashier up through management. I've worked in retail management. And so I speak with I have a lot of personal experience as a worker and as a shopper. Let me tell you the story real quick, just to make it so I'm not just being a dick. There's truth to my claim here. This is a 5 3/8 inch circular saw blade. Very simple, very basic. I bought this yesterday because I'm rebuilding my van. I live in my van. There's a whole other, I'm going to go on a whole other side note real quick. I should have asked for help in this project, and I didn't, and I'm disappointed in myself. As a man, it's hard to ask for help because I already feel like I'm a burden, specifically to the general contractor that I work a little bit, some part-time, I'll just call it part-time. I feel like a burden to him in a lot of ways because he's had to teach me a lot, and he pays me and he gives me work, and so I feel like a burden. And so I didn't want to ask to borrow a circular saw, and I'm already just building my own tool collection because I'm getting serious about the trades. So I just bought one. You get a free battery with it, and I was like, okay, well, I need a blade. I should have asked for help, and I'm acknowledging that I need to grow and I need to be better. But anyways, so that's why I bought the circular saw. And I wanted a good blade to go with it. So I ordered all of this online. It was an online special. I gave it an hour, and then I came to pick it up. I did not get an email saying your order is ready, but I figured after an hour, if it's not ready, if I go to pick it up, they could expedite it, and because it was a saw, a battery, and a blade. I could have shopped it. So I went to go pick it up after an hour, and it wasn't ready. It wasn't ready. And so I was like, okay, whatever, I'll go kill more time. And I went and bought more shit. I've spent way too much money on this project, but I'll address that in the main van build video. This is a different video. So after 45 minutes of waiting, so I gave them an hour to fulfill the order, and then I showed up and then waited 45 minutes more when I could have literally just walked to the store and got the order. What ultimately ended up being the issue was they couldn't find the blade. So they had the battery, they had the drill, and so she was like, okay, well, yeah, we're just gonna refund you the blade. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. It came with a basic blade, but it's a basic blade. I want a good blade for this project. But oh yeah, this is the blade though. So here's the moral of the story. They refunded me, that's fine, whatever, because they couldn't find this. I've worked in retail for a very long time, so I know a thing or two, But the things I know are pretty like intuitive if you just think for a minute. And I don't think I'm a super genius, right? Like, I'm not some super genius. I think I'm reasonably intelligent. I will be honest there. But anyways, so the app said it was in stock. The app tells you what aisle to go to, what bay to go to. I went there. One more quick backtrack real quick. The lady who was helping me at the customer service online ordering station said, we have the 5.5 inch blade if that'll work for you. And I was like, no, I really would prefer to have the right blade, right? So then that was last night. I come back into the store, go to the section where the app says it is, and I see the 5.5 inch blade. And I'm like, okay, that's the 5.5 inch blade. But it's the same price as the 5 3/8. And I in my brain, I knew what was going to happen here. There were about 7 or 8 units on the peg. It was a hanging item, so there's like 7 or 8. I reached about halfway through the stack and looked, and lo and behold, behind the 5.5 inch blades were the 5 3/8 inch blades, because for whatever reason they stocked incorrectly. And I knew something like that was going to be up, and all it took was just a minute of thinking about the situation. And I went even further. I didn't tell them this, but I could have or should have. I went even further and I looked at, there's a planogram is a thing that it's a pretty generic retail term, like a schematic of how a section should be set up, where the products go, spacing, etc. There was a space where there should have been probably one more peg that was just empty in the corner there. And I was like, that empty space, probably there should be one more peg here. The 5.5 inch should have its own space, and the 5 3/8 should have its own space. But instead, because retail workers are underpaid and overworked and not super motivated most of the time, someone probably just didn't fully do their job properly. That's obviously what happened. It started at the planogram person level, not setting their planogram properly, but then the retail worker not stocking their product properly is also part of the problem. And so while yes, this is a clickbait title, it's also kind of true, but the broader, more nuanced, in my opinion, synthesis of the situation allows me to be somewhat compassionate towards these people. So now here's like another detour. This video has kind of done this, but if that's how my brain works, just roll with me, please. Am I an asshole for the way I'm presenting this argument? Could I do it better? Could I do it more eloquently and more compassionately? You know, mostly I'm thinking about the clickbait title. It's kind of true, but it's clickbaity and it's a little disparaging. What could be a more compassionate way to title this video? Unmotivated working class has been systematically dumbed down. That's not gonna get YouTube views. Maybe it will. I don't know what I'm gonna title this yet. I'm gonna wrap up the video here. Why don't you please leave in the comments what would have been the better title of the two? You know, retail workers are dumb, blah, 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 or unmotivated, underpaid workers have been systematically dumbed down. Yeah, it's a lot. Anyways, much love. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you don't think I am an asshole. It's fine. Whatever.